Hello, I am Umbrenero, and welcome back to Umbrenero's Life. Today's video is homemade Alfredo. This is another one of our go-to meals that we go to with knowing of the food allergies we have to cook around. So, the very first step when we make Alfredo is we need to cut up a lot of bacon because it sets up the base for the protein that will be included in our Alfredo. So here my husband is just busy cutting away at the bacon. I was making sure the pan was on and starting to warm up because the amount of times we have filled our house with smoke from bacon is a lot. So he was cutting and I was starting to separate the pieces and throw them in the pan. A couple of the pieces were being very stubborn for him, so I did end up coming and cut them up a little bit more so that way everything was cut and good to go. So this was about 1.5 pounds of bacon we use. Other protein that we will commonly use in our Alfredo is chicken because we just like having something with protein in our meal, and this is one of the easiest ones for us. But if it's a chicken that we're throwing in, we'll usually have some bacon as well, just for the grease to cook the chicken in. So in the meantime, while we were cooking the bacon here, we actually had a bag of frozen broccoli that we were going to use as well for our Alfredo, because we like to have at least one healthy vegetable in it. And I will add more if we decide to split our Alfredo into separate batches, but this day we're doing a single batch just to be easy and make a quick-ish dinner. So the first half of the bacon was just about finished here, and we actually had our water started for our noodles because the way this is made, at least our method, it actually comes together very well and usually is timed to where everything is good to go all at the same time, so you just have to mix it together at the very end. But here, I started throwing in the second batch of the bacon. My husband was sampling the bacon as a bacon tax, because anytime you have bacon, there is a bacon tax, and it just is how it is. So out of the 1.5 pounds that we cooked, probably 1 pound of it, or 1.25 pounds of it, did end up in the Alfredo. The other quarter to half a pound was snacked on. But if anyone wants to kind of know what we throw in our Alfredos, for the fact that we do this for someone with an allergen and stuff like that, I can always post it. And who knows, maybe I will go into greater detail in another video on how it is fully made, going over the measurements and what we do, and also the variations that I will add to it. But since we were on the last part of the bacon here, it was time to start our sauce for the Alfredo. And first things first, we threw some butter in the pan. Got it melting, and also had to add the salt to the water because that was forgotten originally, but that happens. A lot of bacon does get ate during the process of cooking, especially if it is one of our main ingredients for what we are making. So just seeing this makes me smile and go, bacon is something that we don't have to worry about not eating in our house. So the bacon finished up and the butter was just about fully melted. So I added the noodles into the water. A lot was happening all at once here, and I had to get the noodles going so that way they would be done by the time the sauce was. So into the butter, we added some flour to start a base for a roux, because we've found that is the easiest way for us to do this. So yes, my husband was using the whisk attachment to our immersion blender to mix everything because our other whisk was MIA while we were doing this. So we made do with what we had. And then it was time to start adding the milk for our sauce. And you might be going, this isn't Alfredo, where is the Parmesan cheese? And because that's one of the big things for it. It's coming. And like I said, because of allergies, we do it this way, whereas I have in the past made Alfredo sauces from heavy cream and a whole bunch of other ways, right, where there's a lot more dairy products. But one of the allergies we do cook around is dairy on top of gluten. So we make do and just make it work. So here, my husband is still beating the sauce, and it's time to add the cheese. And he adds it in batches, so that way it can melt as he's stirring, because this does take quite a while for it to take place. So he needed more cheese than he initially put in, and while he was stirring, taking care of stuff, I was opening that second package for him. So the noodles were done. He took them off the stove, went, drained them at our sink, and while he did that, I kept stirring this sauce, because this sauce gets very temperamental. If you leave it for just a minute, it will start to burn and clump up, and we did not want that. So it was constant stirring for quite a while. As you can see, it's starting to get very gooey and longer, but that meant we were just getting closer to the time to add spices and seasoning. So he had some garlic salt, some pepper, he needed more pepper because the amount he initially added wasn't enough. And then it was starting to get very, very gooey and all melty. Because the next thing is trying to figure out what's missing yet. And there was something missing. We were trying to figure it out. And we did reduce the heat before we stopped stirring like this. And he did turn it off even, and added a little bit more garlic salt. Just to give it a little bit more flavor. Quickly stirred it in using a pair of tongs, because that's one of the things we'll do. We'll use whatever we have in our hand while we're cooking. But he figured this was going to be easier for when we added the pasta. So in goes all of the fettuccine. And he started stirring that up. But we also had to add our protein and our vegetable into it as well. So it meant adding a bag of frozen broccoli that we had cooked, and adding the plate of bacon. And that's what we do for our normal version of Alfredo. It's simple, and it's something that is good for a few days. Because there's always leftovers of this, and usually it's when we know we're going to have a busy week. In all, it is a very nice and good dish to have in a repertoire of things that you can eat with someone with allergies. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, I am Umbrenero. Bye!